taking time out of your schedule to come out and listen to some of the issues that are affecting our community. I heard a couple of people say tonight, I can't even vote, but I want to be here and I want to learn and I want to know what's going on. And we appreciate the fact that you want to be an educated voter and you're taking the time to do that tonight. I'm going to invite you at this time to stand with me, and we are going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of the Farmington Regional Chamber is to advance business and strengthen community. So we felt it appropriate to offer a candidate forum this evening for our community. Tonight we will hear more about the Proposition Farmington R7 School District Bond and Levy initiatives. And we will also hear from the two candidates running from Ward 2 for City Council representation, and the two candidates who are also running for Mayor of Farmington. As we advertised before tonight, all questions were to be submitted in advance via email. So we respectfully ask that the audience refrain from commenting or voicing questions this evening. We want to thank Black Knight TV for recording tonight's forum. Y'all can look up there and wave. Thank you so much for being here. We have one of the students here recording. They will be posting that to their YouTube channel, and we will be sharing that link, or you can go straight to their channel to find this afterwards if you wish to review it, or if you know someone who wasn't here and would like to see it. With their recording and this in mind, even more reason that we ask the audience to remain quiet for this evening's event. Candidates have been given the questions in advance, and we'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. We have flipped a coin prior to this meeting to determine the candidate which will present first. That order will be alternated with each new question. We will be timing the speakers to ensure we proceed in a fair manner. And I'd like to thank Mr. Mark Tody down here, one of our exemplary chamber ambassadors, for serving as the timer for this evening. First on our agenda tonight, I would like to invite Mr. Kyle Gibbs, Superintendent of Farmington R7 District, to give us details on Proposition F and S, also referred to as the School Bond and Levy Ballot Initiative.
Thank you, and I'm improvising a little bit. We had some slides that would go with my presentation, had a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'm going to just go through those and make sense of those the best you can without seeing the pictures that go along with them. But appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, the engagement of the community, being at this forum, and look forward to hearing from Mitt and Chris. I've enjoyed getting to know them over the last couple years, and especially the last few weeks as we've been getting the message out about what's going on in our community. Just to share a little bit about me, as your superintendent of schools, I came here 2 years ago. I'm 26 years in my career in education. I've been a lifelong educator, but I grew up not too far from here. My parents still live on a farm they worked their whole lives for, and my dad retired from the mining company, and I raised 3 sons, and we've all been very successful, and I think that's a tribute to public education, and so that's why I'm so passionate about it. And they ingrained that in us long ago, and we worked hard to 13 years in public education, and as a result have gone on and been successful in our respective careers. So I'll jump into the topic of tonight, and as Candy said, just giving you an overview and getting some of the facts out about the 2 propositions that are on the ballot and why those are so crucial to our school district. So the first one that you'll see as you get to the April ballot is Proposition F, and I break that down to facilities, resources, and safety. And I had a slide that kind of showed you some of the key words for that, but you'll see that when you go to vote on April 8th. And the second proposition that we have on the ballot is Proposition S. And I really boil that down to our people and programs. So two completely different things. There was a slide that broke down and helped you see the difference between the two, but there are two buckets of money that our local tax dollars operate from. The bonds and the levy. The bonds, we say, are for building, for making improvements all across our district. The levy is what focuses on the learning, keeping the lights on, food, the buses going, the fuel for the buses, and then the biggest component of that is for our people, the benefits, the salary, and all of the programming that we have going on for our students. So those are the two things that we're working from and talking about when we come to these two propositions. And there's a timeline of when we worked through this. A lot of these things were in place before I came, and then as I came here 2 years ago, we launched a demographic study, really studied the needs of our community, had a lot of groups involved, shared across the community with the groups I could get in front of, just trying to get input. So this came about over a series of work and just trying to make sure that we were meeting the needs of our school and keeping our community strong in turn. So when I talk about facilities, I'll talk about the high school improvements, because I know the dual purpose building at the high school has been one of the hotter topics that's been discussed across the community, not immune to that. And so that dual purpose building is designed to be a 15 to 2,000 person capacity storm shelter. So it's a safe shelter for our students, and then a 740 seat auditorium to serve many purposes. So the first being that safety piece, and I've heard people kind of dismiss that as like, oh, we don't need that. We don't need it until we need it. And you know what? We've got communities all around us that are following building codes that have been there for 10 years at this point, and continuing to ignore those is not what schools are doing in this day and age. So what message would that be for our community if we chose to forego those building codes? So we've got West County building theirs right now, St. Genevieve around us building theirs from bond issues they passed recently. We've got Potosi with almost the exact same storm shelter and performing arts center on their ballot this April. Arcadia Valley with 2 storm shelters that they're putting in on their ballot, and Fredericktown with them already in place, Valley with theirs in place. So all around us having that safety measure in place for our student. And we look at the dual purpose part of it, the performing arts side, and we have so many events that we highlight in the high school, and so many things that can be a part of that building. Our drama program is preparing for their spring play right now. 110 nights out of the year, our director said they are in that space practicing, preparing for the performances. Our band program, being able to showcase them on a stage that's their own, that they can practice on all throughout the day. Events that can be held, college speakers coming in, replicating what it feels like to be in a college auditorium for a class for our students. Assemblies that can be held with multi-grades going into that space. Just a great opportunities. Dr. Lamont is here, and she feels very passionately about this and has spent her entire career and graduated from the Farmington High School, sees the needs of that campus far more than me as a newer person coming in, and feels like this will really elevate the experience for our high school. So that dual purpose between the storm shelter and the performing arts center, and then in the process we're taking our first floor, building on classrooms there, and that will allow us to maximize space, get innovative classrooms in place for the high school, get ADA accessible in new areas to that building. Moving over to the middle school, we've got temporary walls between classrooms that we want to take out and open those spaces up and put teachers in their own classroom. And that 3 classrooms that we add on will also house over 650 students in that space for a storm shelter. So we'll have 2 additional campuses covered with the storm shelter. You move down here downtown, our Washington Franklin School that's been beloved. It still serves nearly 400 students on any given day, and our staff is in there. Exterior and interior updates to that building, just to give it the love and attention that it deserves for this community. I rarely speak anywhere where people don't say, I went to school there, and they're a grandparent, and they have kids in that school, and they're grandkids, and kids have come through that school, and they have a lot of pride in it, so we want to make sure we elevate that school. District-wide improvements, just to give you a few of those. HVAC upgrades, which are so costly, in buildings that we maintain at 6 campuses. Roofing projects at 4 campuses. Window efficiency upgrades at 2 campuses. Moving over to the middle school, there's also been some talk about, do we need an athletic facility over there? We have students that I was in a room and spoke to them earlier this week. filled in the cafeteria of track athletes, rarely get to practice on an actual track, rarely get to feel what it's like to run 100 meters or a regulation 400 meters around a track, because busing over to the high school is a challenge, or they're over there and it's very crowded because we have all the high school team, which is really large, and the middle school together. And then when we think about the fall, and we have so much going on between marching band, 2 soccer teams, JV and varsity, 7th and 8th grade football, and our JV and varsity football, and they're all vying for one field. We'll just give them a regulation field to prepare on for all of those activities. And so just really give opportunities. And then serving that community over on that side to have a walking track to get in off the streets. And then all the youth programs that use our facilities. So I'm going to move to resources. I said facilities, resources, and safety. So the second one, and I think of the new buses, we need to update our bus fleet. We have 39 buses to maintain. Buses right now are running about 180,000, so you can do the math pretty quick and see there's a lot of investment there. And of those buses, 27 run our regular routes, 5 special routes. The average age of that fleet is 14.36 years. And we have 1 bus on the road from 1999, 26 years old. I don't know how many of us are driving cars that are 26 years old, so definitely a need to update our fleet, and that's part of this proposition. Technology resources that get stretched. The safety component, I've already mentioned the storm shelters and the need and the codes that we're following to put those in place. The conversations that our architect group had with the code enforcer in our community, conversations I've had with city officials and the city council members. And that will cover the high school and middle school, so that's an additional 47.4% of our student population that will be in safe schools should an emergency occur. And I've heard people say, well, give me the statistics on when that happens. Well, I don't know if they're going to want to stand in front of somebody 20 years from now and the legacy be like, well, we passed on that because those building codes were put in place, but we didn't want those in our community. And so that's a pretty concerning statement to make. But 73% of our student population would be safe then, up from 25% now over at Truman and Jefferson that were put in recent bond issues. Improved safety at Roosevelt, upgraded intercom systems that we rely on so much in the age when we're concerned, and parents are concerned about intruders coming into our schools, so making sure those antiquated systems are up to date. Exterior lighting across the district, technology systems to fight cybersecurity, to keep our student information safe. Improved practice field, I mentioned that already, but just to have a safe field for them to practice on, parking and improved traffic, get more people in off the streets. And so that really summarizes Proposition F, and I know I've covered a lot in a short amount of time, and people say $48 million. Wow, that's a lot of money. You're right, it is, and I agree, and we are asking a lot, but the cost of things have gone up, we all know that. Cost of building materials over the last few years is definitely a challenge as we try to just deal with the things we have to repair right now have really stretched the dollar, and I'll talk about that a little bit on the operating side. But we're touching every single campus, many programs, all students will benefit from the improvements we're making. And it will really put us in a position for many years to come, in a much better position than we are right now with our facilities. So switching gears to Proposition S, which is our operating levy. And so that is, like I said, all the everyday expenses that we have. So I want to talk about my people, because I mentioned that as the first thing that was underlined in that proposition when you go in and look at that. And the first thing is strong and dedicated educators. And I'm talking about teachers, counselors, occupational therapists, physical therapists, SPED teachers, virtual. Somebody asked me the other day and do the math and be like, well, a classroom has 20 students and 1 teacher, so that's 2,000. Where's the other money going that you spend? There are so many pieces that I'm going to go over that make our schools successful and make our schools work. So I just want to kind of, we are serving students from birth through college. We have dual instructors in our high school teaching our kids, helping them get an associate's degree and graduate from that. We are doing that at a 20 teacher to 1, or 20 student to 1 teacher ratio, and the state average is 16 to 1, so we're doing more with less. 58.2% of those teachers have advanced degrees. We have experienced and focused leadership team. And I've seen the post where it says, like, well, if you get rid of some of your administrators, you could pay the teachers more. I want to challenge them to come in and see what their administrators are doing and the decisions that they're having to make. And they're being instructional leaders, they're managing diverse problems, complex issues all across their building between the building operations, the schedules, the staff growth, and they're doing that at 225 to 1 ratio, where the state average is 158 to 1 ratio. The people, I can't forget my support staff. We do all district services. Nothing's contracted out in our district, so food service team and 8 campuses serving 3,700 meals a day. Bus drivers covering 2,000 miles daily just for their daily routes. That doesn't count all the trips that crisscross the state. 7 maintenance team members that cover 8 campuses and 18 buildings. That's pretty phenomenal that we can tackle all of that. Day and evening custodians that are right now in our buildings, keeping them clean and hygienic to fight off the diseases and sicknesses that are always rampant in our schools. 8 skilled nurses, dealing with complex medical needs, paraprofessionals that are one-on-one with students, working with groups of students, and dealing with aggressive student behavior. Our social workers that are going into homes, working with students, helping to fight the drug epidemic in this community, administrative assistants that are on the front line managing our student information system. And I could have several slides and at several points on all the robust programs, and I know I'm running out of time, so I'll fly through this, but our high school offers 140 to 40 CTE courses alone for our kids to come out with the different pathways that meets their needs to be successful. We send kids out into the community to do internships. We have ROTC, which few schools have. Daisy Baker is a line of defense for at-risk students that need programs to feel successful and to get their diploma. We have pathways all the way from elementary, middle school that feed into that high school, make it so successful. Down at Truman, we have a 3-year-old program that's serving the earliest learners. We have the PAT program, and we have kids on the waiting list to get in that 3-year-old program. Expansive counseling, meeting the mental health crisis that has hit this country. We do all of that on the lowest possible levy that's available in Missouri. We're at the floor at $275. Very few schools are operating at that, about 10% of the schools, and people will say, well, you have a higher assessed valuation. Compare us to schools the same size as us across the state, and we are doing that with that lowest assessed valuation, or that lowest operating levy, and where we have just as low, or if not lower, assessed valuation than those schools. So it's all about Proposition S is a lot about staff recruitment and retention. Our pay's fallen behind. Maybe you've seen the graphics where we're not at the top for starting teacher pay, and for experienced teacher pay, we fall to 7th in the MAAA conference alone. And I want to share this statistic with you. The average teacher salary across the entire state of Missouri is $55,600. Here in Missouri, it's $51,440, or here in Farmington schools, it's $51,447. So you can do the math. We're over $4,000 behind the average teacher salary. Missouri ranks 47th in the nation as the lowest paid teacher. So we are below the state average of the state that ranks 47th in the nation. That's pretty concerning. And so when I think about the staff recruitment piece, I think about our support staff that spend a lot of their career here and have very low increments as they go up years, so we want to address that with Proposition S. And so a few questions that come up, and once again, I have to go through these quickly. Can we make budget cuts? I promise you, we're looking very carefully at evaluating our budget, and as people retire and leave, we are shuffling things around to make sure we maintain the programs we have. Rising costs are presenting challenges, and we could not make enough cuts to close the pay gap that we need to close. Are there misaligned priorities? I've heard people say, well, you've had other projects in the past that really aren't a great priority. These projects touch every campus. We've had past projects for safety entries, pre-K expansion, flying through this, I promise, Candy, storm shelters, practice facilities that are used by people all across this community. I've heard the question asked, where did our higher assessment funds go? In 2019, there was a higher assessment. I get that. We dropped to the floor. It generated approximately $1 million. We went right into COVID. We sat on that money to make sure we were safe moving through that, and then began to disperse that to teachers to close the gap. I can show you exactly where that goes. We've added new programs to meet the needs of students that weren't there before COVID. Why not use reserves? We've had higher than usual reserves. I will admit that. I had a slide on it. It's right from our magazine that goes out to keep our community informed, where it shows the ESSER funds that have come in, rising costs resulting in deficit spending, and we don't have a long-term solution to close this pay gap without the help of our community. And what happens if there's a reassessment? This has been a concern. So the 40-cent increase is designed to generate $2 million, and the Hancock Amendment will protect our citizens Should we see another assessment, it will reset that levy at $315 down to where you will not see a huge increase in your taxes. If both of these happen this year, we will only set the levy at what we promised voters. And finally, the hardest question, why pay more taxes? I'm a taxpayer in this community. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. I get it. That's never a popular topic. So funding is continually in question across the state of Missouri and federally right now. And so this is a tax that will bring dollars right into our community, into the schools that I hope you believe in, and the people you believe in that are leading your school. And it's crucial to the success of this community. And our hashtag all year has been strong schools, strong community, and that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gibbs. At this time, we have two citizens who will speak, one in opposition to the proposition F and S, and one in speaking in support of that. So at this time, if you'll please welcome Tom Bertram to the platform. They each have 5 minutes. We will set the timer.
Mark Tody, an exemplary chamber member.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, Candy, you're so nice. I want to start off by saying thank you and recognize Dr. Gibbs. He has been nothing but respectful to me and gentlemanly in providing information as I've asked for it. I appreciate it. This is not personal. There's nothing personal about tax measures. I have 5 minutes, so let's get started. This is a $48 million bond issue that the school district is asking us to pay over the next 24 years. That's 3 times larger than the last bond issue that the school district asked us to pay. At the current tax-free bond rate, the cost of borrowing that amount of money over that amount of time is an additional $21 million. That's a total of $69 million that we, the taxpayers of Southern St. Francis County, are being asked to pay over the next 24 years. And that $21 million isn't going to teachers. It's not going to the school district. It's not benefiting the kids. It's going out of here. It's going to benefit bond investors around the country. 5 years ago, our assessments sharply increased in Southern St. Francis County at the fault of nobody in this room. It was the State Tax Commission that applied pressure for those assessments to be increased. And when the assessments increased, the taxes we pay increased. Unfortunately, that pressure isn't gone. The State Tax Commission is, as you read in the paper, in discussions with the county to increase our assessments even further. See, we have to raise our assessments another 20% in the Farmington School District just to get to the State Tax Commission's minimum. That means that we have paid more taxes in the last 5 years, and we're going to pay more taxes even faster going forward. It doesn't surprise anybody that the school district has a $17.5 million surplus, or excuse me, reserve. That's unsurprising, and you know what? Money's going to be coming in even faster going forward. Pay the teachers. Pay them. We're all for it. The school district isn't a bank. Pay them. We're going to have even more money. I mean, it's going to come in faster and faster. This is not a question of revenue. It's a question of spending priorities. We all agree that the purpose of public education is to educate our kids and to prepare them better for life. So we have to ask this question. Are our kids any better educated or any better prepared for life if they perform the school play at the Performing Arts Center that's owned by the school district at the bottom of the hill, as opposed to the Performing Arts Center that's owned by the city at the top of the hill? The storm shelter requirement is easily waivable. It is a city ordinance. The city grants relief from the International Building Code to citizens, institutions, and businesses all the time based on local conditions. My understanding is nobody has come to the city from the school district and said, hey, if you waive this storm shelter requirement, we'll save the taxpayers millions of dollars, or we can put that money into the classroom. That hasn't happened. There's a 100% chance, not a 99% chance, a 100% chance that if the school district went to the city, that money could be saved because that requirement could be waived. There's money in the bond issue for additional athletic facilities. Nobody questions the importance of athletics, especially at the high school level. But can anybody look each other in the eye and say, you know what, we haven't spent enough on athletic facilities in Farmington and the school district in the last 15 or 20 years? Go back to the theme. Are our kids any better prepared for life because they're being tackled on turf as opposed to being tackled on grass? It's just a matter of priorities. It's a matter of spending priorities. It's a matter of taxpayer priorities. And it's a matter of keeping the mission in focus. You can be for education, and you can be for kids, and be against these tax increases. Thank you.
This time we're going to invite Keith Zaromsky to the stage to share a citizen supporting the Proposition F and S. Keith? Y'all give him a warm welcome also.
Good evening. My name is Keith Zaromsky, and I'm here as a parent of a middle schooler and the spouse of an elementary teacher. Not here to debate, not here to rebuttal. I believe we should all vote our conscience. I've taught social studies and history my whole education career. And so I believe that this type of dialogue is healthy for our republic and our community. But in believing that everyone should vote their conscience, I'd like to share with you my conscience. My conscience does prioritize safe and secure schools. If you know me, you know that I relocated from the Joplin area, experiencing the Joplin tornado. That did occur on a Sunday evening, but had it occurred even on a weekday night with activities, history could be very different in that community, as tragic as it already was. In that too, I realize it's a low probability, but there are other accidents, other ways that we can keep students safe, ways that we can make traffic flow safer for drop-off, pickup, walkers, other ways to make our schools safer environments, more hygienic, cleaner, up-to-date. Safe and secure means that none of us should ever worry when we drop our kids off at school, they drive themselves to school, walk to school while they're there. That, to me, is my conscience and a priority. Future-ready facilities. In being a historian, I take pride in historic buildings that make our community what it is. And in doing so, construction costs are only rising. To be able to invest in these facilities means that in the future, we're not having to spend more on something that we wish we would have done at this time. It's preserving the past to invest in the future. And that's not just with Washington Franklin. That's with active learning classrooms, spaces that accommodate programs that we may not even know exist yet as education needs change. Programs and opportunities reach our students in ways that when we went through school, we couldn't have even imagined. In doing so, it allows us to put students in a safe and secure environment in a future-ready facility for that instruction, and that is expanding on student success. When we relocated here, there was no question to what district my family wanted to live in, and that was Farmington. Its reputation precedes itself beyond the parkland. And in knowing that, we have an opportunity to to give students even more of a chance to expand their success. Academically, through extracurriculars, and opportunities to determine their passions. The types of things that you and I experience in realizing this helped me as a lifelong learner, or it helped me realize this is the field of profession I wanted to go in. And in that, we need to invest in our educators. Getting a salary equity is a challenge, but in doing so, it will only get more expensive each year. We agree that there's no debate on paying teachers. I seek to trust the school district, knowing that reserves are like our own homes, that we can spend out of it, but eventually it depletes over time. And I believe that we shouldn't be then pushing a problem on future leadership of a school district when we have the opportunity to address it now. In doing so, we can help with teacher retention that promotes instructional continuation. In doing so, we have less teacher turnover, that we have teachers that are experienced, more devoted to a district, that make their careers here rather than starting a year or two here and going to another school district. Taking that knowledge, that professional development, and that love of the community with them. And in doing all of those, we strengthen the community. We allow for more opportunities for facilities to be used by the community. We make it a place that draws those seeking to relocate to the parkland. We make it a place that our children are able to pass it off to their children in a way that we've bonded better, and we did so for them. I believe there's a difference between helping and serving. All of us want to help the schools in here. I don't deny that one bit. But I believe that these two measures serve teachers, students, faculty, staff, leadership, and the community that will be able to benefit from these measures. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your attention. Have a great evening.
At this time, we'd like to invite our two candidates for Ward 2 City Council, Josh Smith and Jessica Layton, to the stage. If you would welcome them, please, as they come forward. We will have to pass the microphone back and forth between candidates because we have two of them, and I know you want to hear the questions. So. And our first question, I'll not waste time walking back to the table, is what made you decide to run for City Council? Josh, you got here first, so how about we let you go? Oh, Jessica, can you hand him the microphone?
Oh, maybe.
Thank you.
First, I would like to say thank you for everybody coming out. Obviously, if you are here, then you obviously are involved in your community, and that speaks volumes that you are here tonight. So, why am I qualified? That was the question.
Why did you decide to run?
Why did I decide to run? I've got a large family here in Farmington. I've got 6 kids. I work full-time while also running a small business. I spent about 10 years of my life in law enforcement, and that was about 15 years ago. And ever since then, I've kind of felt like I was missing community involvement. I always enjoyed those years of helping people and being involved in our community and working with community leaders on problems that we had within the city. And to be honest, I just really kind of missed being involved in my local community.
Jessica, same question to you, if you can pass the mic there, Josh. What made you decide to run for City Council?
So I moved here about over 2 years ago, and I realized that we had a really bad intersection issue with vehicles ending up in my yard where my children play. So going from there, I went on to find City Hall And I have a shout out for somebody very special, but I won't. And Casey. She helped me through everything. But everybody has been so welcoming, so opening, and just wonderful that I think I found my niche. I love it. I love being here. I love doing what I'm doing. I have all these notes, and honestly, I like being here. I go to the safety meetings. I go to all the meetings that we have, like the city council meetings, the safety meetings. I go to luncheons. I do what I do, and I love it. I found my little place, and I put up a 4-way stop, and I've gotten a few other things done. I'm trying not to like pull anything bad or but I definitely go to businesses and I try to help out, and I ask if there's an issue. Sometimes there are, sometimes there's not. If there is, I do what I do. I do what I can. I go get records. I go get the information that's needed, and we do what we gotta do. Me. And then I go and bug everybody.
All right, thank you so much. We only have 3 questions for this portion of the program, and they each get 2 minutes to answer. The second question is, what do you hope to accomplish being on City Council?
For me, to accomplish, I think it's pretty short and sweet. I want to be able to represent the residents of Ward 2. Any of their concerns, any of the issues that they have, that they come to me for, trying to find either a solution for them or an answer, whether it be working with Public Works or the police department, whatever their issue is, to be able to connect those two and basically be their liaison. The second part of that would be to kind of be a voice of reason on City Council. You've got any resolutions or ordinances being passed. I think there's a lot of, I like to ask a lot of questions, I'll put it that way. I don't believe in just passing something to pass it because somebody else told me it needs to be passed. I'd like to know why, I'd like to know some of the numbers, and I would, want to make sure that every avenue is being used for that, information.
Now for you, Jessica, the same question. What do you hope to accomplish being on City Council?
So what I hope to accomplish here as a council member is to be very proactive, as I already have been for over a year. I actually do go to safety meetings. I do go to council meetings. I listen. I go to business owners. I go to residents, I go to neighbors, and I see if there's something that we can do to fix or to help. Some say no, we're perfect, and yes, we have a wonderful town. But some say yes, there are some issues. So what I do is I go get the records. I go do the due diligence, and I do my best, and as long as it's not private property, which is an issue, private property owners sometimes don't want anything to do with anybody, but anyway, so what I'm hoping to accomplish is just to help our town. It doesn't matter if it's Ward 2, Ward 4, Ward 3, I don't care. I just want to help. That's all I'm here for. That's all I've been doing for the 2+ years that I've been here. That's all I've been doing. I mean, as a citizen, I got a 4-way stop put in, which is not a big deal to a lot of people, but it's a lot of hoops. And I'm proud of it. So I'm hoping to accomplish, and not just that, there's been a few other things. I'm hoping to accomplish a lot more, and I listen to everybody, and I do what I can do.
Thank you so much. The last question is, what qualifies you to be a city council member?
I would say the biggest qualification is honestly, I would probably look back to the decade I served in law enforcement, working with city officials, working with the local community, and a lot of residents and their concerns. I know we have a lot of questions going on with the homeless issue in Farmington. That seems to be the biggest thing. I have personally dealt with hundreds of homeless people, and I've seen their side of things, and the side of the city, and also the side of the law. And the law has to be followed on that. And there's, maybe there's room for some ordinances and stuff to be to help with that, or work with other officials. But that experience helped me a lot as far as I feel like dealing with a lot of the city issues that would come up. I would also say being a small business owner here in Farmington has helped me a bunch. I've met a lot of other local business owners, and I've heard a lot of their concerns. And they have a lot of concerns with certain things with the city, and some of the more difficulties of operating or starting a small business in this town versus a larger franchise that has unlimited money and a lot of the hoops that these small businesses have to go through. And I think we need a good representation for those small businesses, because they are honestly our heart and soul of our city.
Hey, Jessica, the last final question for you. What qualifies you to be a city council member?
So, I probably don't have a ton to qualify me, to be honest. I've lived here for 2 years, over 2 years. I love this town. I do see issues with the homelessness, and I didn't want to bring that up. So, something I'm working with the safety meetings, and I think that we're getting on a really good agenda here, is having a, let's not condone panhandling. Let's have signs up that say they have a QR code, they have a website and a phone number. If you want to help, here's where to help. There's several churches. There's, and the homeless shelter, of course, which has a 270 person capacity. And we maybe see 20 to 30 people ever, from what they've told me at least. Which is kind of sad, but you can't be on drugs or alcohol when you're in the homeless society. But anyway, not just that, like I mentioned, I've been here for 2 years. I love this town. I just want to do the best that I can for it. I've gotten rid of a couple really sketchy houses. And I think everybody can agree with safety there with their children going to school. And not just that, but my big 4-way stop was my big thing. There's a couple other things that are in the works though.
Thank you both so much. At this time, I'd like to introduce our mayoral candidates, and I have a short bio on each of them. We did flip a coin before the meeting tonight, and so we will start with Chris Morrison. Chris is a dedicated public servant, small business owner, and community leader with a passion for making Farmington a better place to live, work, and raise a family. A graduate of University of Missouri with a degree in personal financial planning, Chris understands the importance of responsible fiscal management and long-term economic growth. As the owner of a successful state farm agency, Chris has built strong relationships with individuals and families in our community, helping them plan for their futures. His commitment to serve extends beyond his business. He currently serves on the Farmington City Council, the Parkland Hospital Board of Directors, the St. Francis County Board for Developmentally Disabled, and is an active member of the St. Francis County Rotary Club. Chris is also a proud supporter of organizations like Hope for Autism and CASA of the Parkland. He also served as the board chair for the Farmington Regional Chamber of Commerce. Chris and his wife Jennifer are proud parents of 3 children, Jack, Crosby, and Florence. He believes in preserving Farmington's small-town charm while ensuring it remains a place of opportunity and growth for future generations. And we'll welcome them both to the stage at the same time. Let me tell you now a little bit about Mitt Landrum, also a mayoral candidate. Mitt Landrum is a lifelong resident of Farmington with a distinguished record of leadership and civic service. As a former mayor, Mitt spearheaded transformative projects that have reshaped our community, ranging from the construction of a new firehouse, library, and modern maintenance facility to significant downtown revitalization efforts. His leadership was instrumental in the implementing of a historic smoke-free ordinance and enhancing the overall quality of life in Farmington. Before his extensive public service, Mitt made notable contributions in science and technology. He worked at NASA during the space race and was involved in pioneering software development, experiences that laid the groundwork for his innovative approach to problem solving. Returning to Farmington, he expanded his family business and played a key role in local economic development as chamber president and leader of the Farmington Industrial Development Authority. Mitt continues to serve on several local boards, including First State Community Bank and the Life Center, and demonstrating his enduring commitment to community growth and support. His lifelong dedication and hands-on leadership approach have made him a respected and influential leader in Farmington, inspiring current and future generations to work together for the betterment of our community. Please welcome both of these distinguished gentlemen to our stage. Our first question tonight is, we'll start with you, Chris. What are the top 3 priorities you would focus on during your first year in office, and how do you plan to implement them?
All right, well, first off, thanks. Thank you, Candy and the Chamber, for putting this event on. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of some fellow citizens and talk about this important race. So I think, with my time with the City Council the last 5 years, I've taken the approach of I wanted to get in and learn as much as I could. The operation of the city is a very complex thing. Greg in the back can tell you it's not an easy thing. It's not run like a small business. I think that approach that I've taken was by listening and trying to encourage collaboration. So I think it sounds good. I can say that I want to listen, I want to lead, and I want to collaborate. But what does that look like? I think it's working with community groups. It's working with neighboring towns. It's working with neighboring counties. It's looking at things from a regional level. For example, I think Josh or someone mentioned, obviously the number one question we probably both felt or been asked was talking about homelessness and mental health. That's a very complicated issue. It's one that I don't think a mayor of a town can fix, right? It's a national issue. But there are groups in here that are working on it every single day. And how can we be a piece, of that? And I think that's what my job as mayor is for the city of Farmington, is how can we be at the table for those kind of meetings? How can we be at the table when towns like Bismarck, right up the road, they have 2 businesses coming into town. That benefits Farmington. They're going to shop in Farmington. A lot of people might live in Farmington. How can we help collaborate and provide resources to them when it makes sense? I think infrastructure is a really important topic we have? Multiple reasons. We have our own utility, obviously. There's a lot of pressure on costs, as we just heard about with the school. That's something that as a city we have to keep up with and making sure that we're not passing on costs or not putting our city in a bad spot. There's neighboring towns where they're selling off their water and sewer services. Well, those private companies that come in still have to do those updates, and then they pass that on to their citizens. And my last thing was workforce planning, just working with the city, the staff, recruitment, retention.
All right, you'll have to pass the microphone.
It's my first ability to collaborate with you.
All right, thanks, Chris. That's good.
Mint, for you, what top 3 priorities would you focus on during your first year in office, and how do you plan to implement them?
Okay, I only have 2 minutes. Every one of the 3 priorities, every one of these would take longer than that, but let's just dive right in. Homelessness is the #1 problem that people are telling me that we have in this town. And I think that's true, and that would be my #1 priority. And the first thing I think that I would try to do is to annex that church out on H Highway. Now, they are probably not going to want to be annexed. And so, for years when I was mayor, I would say that we are not going to do unfriendly annexations. This is an exception. We need to annex it because once we get that piece of property in the city, we can apply zoning to it. And now suddenly we can start to control what happens. And also, right now, if there's a problem out at the church, you have to get the sheriff out there because it's not in the city limits. If they step over the fence in the graveyard, suddenly it's the city's problem. We need to get that piece of property in the city limits to start being able to control some of the homeless problems that we have. And when you think about the homeless problems, basically the group that causes the most difficulty are people who are mentally ill or addicts. People who are down on their luck and they just need a hand or something like that. Those people will fit into our shelter and we're giving them the help. City of Farmington, I think, has done a pretty good job with that. But there are a group of people who will not abide by the rules. They will not get into our shelter, and instead they're just around town. That's the problem. If we could do something about the people who are mentally ill in the homeless population, we would clear up a lot of what's wrong with the homeless situation in Farmington. Those are the people that are sleeping on your front porch. Those are the people that are trying to push your front door in the morning. And I've heard all of these stories. Okay? What we need to do, we have a shelter in Farmington. There's about 70 other shelters in the state, roughly. I don't have an exact number, but about that many. Every one of those towns is experiencing the same problem we're having. Okay, that's it. I'll get to the other 2 in other parts of the discussion.
Time flies around the phone.
And you have
Yeah, that's right. I think we're going back.
Yes, Mitt, you have the first question next time. And Mark and I just made the executive decision. We're changing this to 3 minutes for each of you. These are complex questions. And so they will also be allowed to make a closing statement at the end as well. So we definitely want to do justice in allowing you the time to speak. So that should still get us out of here close to 8 o'clock. So the next question is, how will you continue economic growth and job creation in Farmington while ensuring the unique character of our community is preserved?
Economic growth and job creation has been something near and dear to my heart for just about my whole career in public service. And, you know, we currently have 2 industrial parks. They're almost full, but there are a few spots out there. The city is working with other industrial development authorities in the county to try to develop a mega park out by Mac. And that's kind of the long-range plan. But we need to actually develop some land in case somebody wants to come to our town and settle in Farmington sooner than that. And so what I'm thinking is we need to look to the east, perhaps down Highway 32, but we need to try to find about 100 acres that we could site people that want to come to Farmington itself. Another thing we could do to help with this is we need to promote and to help get people to do job training at Mineral Area College. Do you know that in the past there were about 22 industrial training facilities in the state of Missouri, and southeast Missouri was the only part of the state that did not have one until Mac got its a couple of years ago. And we're in the process of getting that thing up and running. It's been pretty successful.
But that is the key to so many problems that we have around here. Employers, if you talk to employers, they want skilled employees. The key to that is over at Mineral Area College, and the city needs to do what it can to try to help promote this. And to further that, I'm willing to go out and talk with groups and talk up the situation at MAC. And so that would be another thing. We need to work with our existing employers. That's one of the places where we've had a lot of success when we've been able to have our existing industry expand or find some additional things that they can get into. The city's been pretty successful as that. We need to market Farmington as a place for remote workers using our tourism board. There are many, many, many people that could move in here and enjoy the lifestyle that we have, and yet their business may be back up in St. Louis. We always used to say that when it comes to Farmington, Missouri, we're only an hour away from everything you love about St. Louis, but we're a million miles from everything you hate. And so I think we need to market our town and use tourism board to do that. We need to work at the state level also to affect changes in an organization called a partnership. And this is going to take longer than just a couple of minutes, but basically the state of Missouri is trying to sell itself to new businesses coming into its state with an organization called the Partnership that it set up over 20 years ago. That organization is incompetent, and it needs to change its methodology. The final test of any marketing organization is, did you sell anything? And when you look at their record in outstate Missouri, they haven't sold anything in 20 years. Very little. That needs to change.
Same question to you, Chris. How will you continue economic growth and job creation in Farmington while ensuring the unique character of our community is preserved?
Right, I think it's on the water tower, right? So what's important is tradition and progress. So I think what we have to do is we have to look at it from a regional approach. I keep going back to that, but if you look at where the success has been across the state of Missouri, I think it's American Foods up in Wright City. If you look at Festus, they've gotten millions of dollars put into the port. They have James Hardy siding going along the river at the old airport. We're not going to get that industry here, but what spin-off industries can we get? Monday I was at a luncheon. Zumbiel has just purchased Crown packet bottling out there, Crown Beverage. They're going to come into town. It's a 180-year-old company, $350 million a year in revenue they do. What spin-off businesses from that can we get? They get cans sent down here from St. Louis. Is that a business we can recruit down here? I think it's working with our existing businesses. The city has purchased a software called Placer AI. It's what all developers, it's what all the industry is looking at on statistics for communities. I think we own that as a city. We can go out to these businesses and say, hey, if you're looking, if you can grow that, we can have this resource we can provide. I think we can do that regionally too. I mentioned Bismarck a while ago. They're going to get two businesses over there. Let's go partner with them and say, hey, you have this coming to town. It's a tiny home manufacturing company, potentially. Well, how can we help? We help them with many other ways. That economic development, again, when it comes to St. Francis County, it's going to help everyone, including Farmington. And that's where across the state you've seen it. In Wright City, when they got that plant, there were 4 counties and 20 cities working on it. In Jefferson County, the whole county worked towards it. And I think that's something, the Farmington IDA, it was in the beginning of it, it's been so great. We got to get collaboration with the county IDA, and I think it's working towards that. But I think we have to look at that from a regional perspective. The other thing we have to keep in mind is any kind of growth, it puts stressors on the city. We have firefighters back here. We have police officers. When you have growth, that's more resources. We have to keep up with that. I've talked to Chief Carter multiple times about the need, and it's been talked about for years, of another fire station on the northern side of town that can serve as a police substation and fire station. It's been in our comprehensive plan. I feel like if it's in our plan, we need to start taking steps towards it. We can't wait until we have growth on the west side of the highway or more industry. We need to be working towards those kind of things, and then making sure that our city, all employees, have the resources necessary from the street department, the water department, police, fire, everyone, for that growth. So it's just, I think it's being strategic about it. I think it's looking at it from a regional level, talking to our partners, talking to Jefferson County, talking to our neighbors, talking to our existing business. So I think it's just, it goes back to trying to work together and doing it in the same lane, not having everyone do things in their own lane. So I'll sell my time back.
14 seconds.
I'll use it on this one.
Okay, and Chris, you'll have the first one on this question. What strategies would you employ to address public safety concerns and enhance community services such as affordable housing, addressing homelessness, and public health?
I have the answer. So obviously it's the question that's been said that everyone's asked, and I understand it. Homelessness, it's an issue. Mental health, it's an issue in our community. And it comes back to community safety. We have to make sure that our community is safe. We have to make sure that our police, our fire, our EMTs, they all have the resources they need to keep our community safe. We also have to make sure we're communicating with our businesses, with our citizens on what to do if they encounter somebody. There's 988, there's a crisis line. Are they aware of that? When you go to meetings, and I mention it because I wasn't that aware of it probably 6 months ago, many people who I would assume know about it don't. And I think that's on us to help communicate those things. The other thing, the homeless shelter. I was out there today. We hear about it all the time. I haven't walked through it since it opened. Okay, I went there before. It's amazing the work that's going on out there. A little tidbit that they told me today is, if they find someone in the homeless shelter that's panhandling, they're not welcome back. So it's not the same people. We have mental health patients in our community that are having issues. We have homelessness, and we have panhandlers. And they're just different situations, and we have to address them all. The biggest issue to address is the mental health thing. It's going to be hard for the mayor of Farmington to take that issue on. But can we work with BJC? Can we work with our other partners in the community? I don't think that the state of Missouri is spending $350 million to put a mental health facility in Kansas City. I don't think they're going to be investing in this facility for an ER. But can we look at other options? Can we look at BJC or Behavioral Health Urgent Care? There's different things to do, and I think it's getting, folks like Annette at Parkland, it's getting Carrie from the Uplift Center, East Missouri Action Agency, getting these people together. The Homeless Coalition that's been meeting the last couple of months, it's making sure we have the right stakeholders at those meetings so we can pool our resources to do it, because it's not a Farmington issue, it's not a Missouri issue, it's a United States issue, But we have to work towards it. We have to keep our community safe. It's important. We have to make sure our first responders have the resources they need in order to do that. Going back to public safety, obviously, you can look on social media. Arnold's hiring police officers for $80,000 a year. We're going to compete against that. We have to keep our equipment. We have to keep our salaries up. The city's doing a compensation study right now. We have requests out for it. It's important for all departments that we have competitive pay. We have a great place to work. We have great benefits. And it's important, I think, for public safety in all realms with our employees to make sure that we're investing in those things. I think we have 157-ish full-time employees, and that's what makes the city go. And I think that's also what attracts people to Farmington, is when they come down and they see how beautiful it is and how hard these folks work. So I'm racking up free time.
Same question to you, Mitt, which is, what strategies would you employ to address public safety concerns and enhance community services such as affordable housing, addressing homelessness, and public health?
Okay, let's start with homelessness. I kind of ended that, kind of ran out of time on that the last time. It doesn't seem like we could do very much about that, does it? But we can join with other people that are having difficulty with the homeless situation, and we can get into the state of Missouri, and we can demand that they start solving a problem that they turned their back on 20 years or more ago. Do you remember, some of you remember when they deinstitutionalized people out at the state hospital? They just simply turned people loose with a prescription on the street and said, good luck. And that has led straight to where we are today, with homeless people who have mental illness. The state needs to step up. I am willing to go to the other towns in Missouri that have a homeless, they have a homeless shelter, they have the same problem we have. We're going to form a legislative bloc and lobby the state of Missouri to start this process going. If we have to lobby in favor of a 1/10 of 1% sales tax to fund it, so be it. I think the citizens of Missouri are sick of dealing with people who are mentally ill just out and around. And they need help, these people do. And it's time we started to do that process. And if I'm your mayor, I will do that. Next thing on the list here was affordable housing. Affordable housing fits into the problem of homelessness, but that's driving part of it. On that, we need to get Habitat for Humanity and other nonprofits. The city can see what it can do to help those organizations. I am not in favor of a housing authority, or something where we do something to modify the marketplace for housing. The city, there's always that temptation to mess around with the marketplace and try to make things happen differently. You can't, what you'll find is you can't do that. You'll get results that you really don't want. So I'm not in favor of that, but I am in favor of trying to help other people perhaps solve that problem. The public health situation in Farmington for years has been the main bailiwick for Parkland Hospital and the foundation. The foundation just donated $500,000 to public health in the city. We need to do what we can to support our hospital. The city needs to participate in trying to help recruit people and anything else we can do to make sure that our hospital succeeds. Our hospital sets us apart from other places, and we need that hospital to be here in the years going forward. That's just so important to us. And so, to me, that's one of the main things that we need to do as far as public health, is support the hospital and see what the city can do there. On homelessness, I think I mentioned that we need to go to the state and get a legislative action started on that, and we do.
We got 14 seconds out.
Okay, Mitt, you have first on this question, which is, what initiatives would you introduce to support local businesses and attract new investment to Farmington, especially in a competitive regional market?
All right, one of the first things I'll do as mayor is go right straight over to the Chamber of Commerce and close the gap that's kind of existed for a long time with those folks. Okay? If you look around Farmington, you're going to find that so much of what makes us the town that we are came right through the Chamber of Commerce. And that's what we need to do. We need to pull together. We need to get a common set of goals. Now, not all the goals the Chamber has fit the city and vice versa, but we can develop a common set of goals where we can work on things together. The Chamber is the champion of small business, and we need to be working with them to help do that. I will work towards a better trained workforce. Here again, that's Mac's situation. I'm on the Mac Board of Trustees, so I kind of have a unique position in this, but I can also see the opportunities. For people to have a better life, they need to make themselves more valuable to their employer, and MAC is the answer to that. And so the city needs to be doing what it can to help that. We need to develop vertical markets from the tourism board. I think that Farmington could become a wedding center. We already have one venue that the city's developed, and the tourism board has the money to develop others. The tourism board should develop a booklet that has every wedding venue in it in the city, along with places where you can go get gowns and restaurants and motels, have all the pricing in there so that we can give it to people if they're looking to have some kind of wedding that they could afford. And that's just one idea where the tourism board could help do things like this. I will continue to support tax saving mechanisms, tax sharing mechanisms like TIFs and SIDs to promote growth within our city. We haven't talked about that very much. When I was here the last time, that was kind of a controversial thing. That's a tool that our town has to have, and I'm willing to use that to help make development happen. And better transportation. Better transportation, Kipling said, civilization follows transportation. He was exactly right. Right now we're on a north-south lane, north-south highway. We need to develop Farmington into a place on crossroads. And we'll do that by getting the state to develop Highway 32 over to 55. That's 22 miles of development that they could do. If they did that suddenly, Farmington had an east-west access and north-south access, we would attract businesses. We would also open up the east side of Farmington for more commercial development. It would become more viable. Okay? So better transportation on 32 is what we need. Dale told me a year ago, over in the southwest corner of the state, the highway department spent $800 million on highways. What did they spend in our corner of the state? Not nearly that much. I think we can make the argument it's our turn. And that's how we hopefully work on getting the transportation system improved in Farmington, which would help our businesses. How much time I got left?
5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Where's the governor from? Is he from the southwest part of the state? The previous governor.
He's from
Parsons.
Chris, same question to you. What initiatives would you introduce to support local businesses and attract new investment in Farmington, especially in a competitive regional market?
Yeah, you know, I think, I mean, the obvious thing when I read this question is who works with local businesses? It's obviously the Chamber of Commerce. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. We've worked together, we've been working on it for years. You know, it's just, let's use the resources we have. You know, the Chamber has a vision, the city has a vision and things to do, and how can we collaborate and work together? I think the collaboration on workforce goes beyond MAC too. I think it goes down to the high schools. There's a career fair coming up on March 18th at the high school. You know, I think we need to promote that. As a city, we should all be at that event. Every person in each department, the lineman, you know, the water and sewer, you know, the guy that works out at the water treatment plant. You know, there's some really cool positions within the city, and I think we need to work on teaching kids that they can stay home, have a great living, you know, live here at home and not move away. And I think that eventually also helps out small businesses. The other thing, you know, is it's a combination of we want growth, right? And we want, you know, I think that you'll see along the highway there's growth happening. We also don't want to cannibalize existing businesses, so we have to work together, I think, and be strategic on it. And I think you've seen success with that. I mean, the downtown of Farmington, to me, is what makes Farmington what it is. If you go to a town and they don't have a downtown, to me, it doesn't feel the same. And when you come down Columbia Street, you come into downtown, you see the small businesses, the boutiques, you see the banks, you see you know, the courthouse, City Hall. I think it shows you the strength of Farmington. So we just have to work with small businesses, you know, make sure it's easy to do business in town. And then it goes back to, I think, initiatives on that. It's just looking at it from a regional approach, reaching out, working with the chamber to do those things that you guys do well across the state. I mean, you have a pulse, and we just have to have an open line of communication. The other thing about, I think, this region that we haven't tapped into, and I think we dance around a little bit, is we're in the middle of like the best part of the outdoors in Missouri. I mean, I think 7 or 8 of the top 10 hiking trails are within 30 minutes from here. Let's get people down here to do that and come visit, and when they visit, they fall in love with it. I've had customers over the last 5 years since COVID. I get probably 10 to 15 households that have moved to Farmington. They're families, that a lot of them work remote. They may be retired. They come here because of the quality of life. And, you know, I think it's just putting that out there, working with different groups, whether it's tourism, whether it's a chamber, to promote that. It's tough from a city perspective because, you know, when the city employees get to work, they have a job to do. They have roads to clean, they have, you know, things to do. I think as mayor, talking to the city council, working with them, we can step in and fill that need and try to get out in the community and see where we can work together on that. I think it's just being open-minded to ideas, right? I mean, that's the whole thing, is I don't have all the answers, so it's just being open-minded, willing to listen, and I think you'll see success. Farmington's had success way before me. It's been steady growth. I don't see that going anywhere. You know, all right.
No spare seconds this time. Okay. This question will start with you, Chris. Many people don't realize the combined population of Bonne Terre, Deloge, Park Hills, Leadington, and Farmington exceeds the population of Cape Girardeau. How would you work with county officials and neighboring communities to create synergistic solutions that benefit Farmington as a part of the larger region?
Kind of talked about this at every other point, but I think the key to the future success of our area when it comes to the economy is just regional collaboration, right? I think we have to work together, city and county. I think the city and county relationship is good. I know Carrie's here has done a great job working with the city. You know, and the IDAs, the Farmington IDA has been a powerhouse in this area. You know, we're getting some support from the county IDA. We're working together, and we have to. I don't think in the future industry is coming to one town. It's coming to an area. And we, you know, we don't have the workforce in Farmington alone for this. It's going to take people from other communities coming to us. And like I mentioned earlier, if Bonne Terre gets a business, if Bismarck gets a business, Deloge, whoever, I'm so happy for them because Farmington citizens are going to work there. They're going to come and shop here. You know, and we can, I said the other day, we can root against each other on Friday nights, but we need to work together during the week and make sure that everyone is having success. And, you know, I think that starts, how are we going to do that is the question. Well, I think it's reaching out to the other mayors. I know Greg and the other city administrators, they work well together. They speak so highly of one another, but it's getting getting together with those other mayors and letting them know that, hey, if you come to us for help, we're not going to try to steal a business from you. We want you to do well. And I think that's the first thing I would like to do is sit down and reach out to those, set up, I don't know, if, we all like meetings, right? I don't know if it's quarterly, if it's twice a year, but we need to have, consistent conversation on what's going on. I mentioned earlier we have this software, Placer AI. The thought is we're paying this money for it, we're not using it. Well, we need to use it. And we need to use it and let other towns use it, other businesses use it, and we need to promote growth amongst the whole region in order to have that success. I mentioned it earlier, I'm originally from Jefferson County, so I go back to that. The success they've had has come from the county. It's called the Economic Development Board, it's their county IDA. They have worked with the state to get millions of dollars in there. We can benefit from that, but we have to go up there and be at the table with them. We have to introduce ourselves. We have to sell Farmington and our community to them, in our region. And we can't wait until it's too late. That James Hardy siding is probably 2 years from being completed. We need to be up there yesterday talking to them and talking to the stakeholders to say, hey, we have an opportunity to use our region for support for you guys. So, I think that's where we need to go. And by saying that, it doesn't mean we're not doing it a little bit now. I think we just need to enhance it and keep it going. So.
Okay, same question to you, Mint. Many people don't realize the combined population of Bonterre, Deloge, Park Hills, Leadington, and Farmington exceeds the population of Cape Girardeau. How would you work with county officials and neighboring communities to create synergistic solutions that benefit Farmington as a part of the larger region?
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. I told you I'm a trustee on the MAC board. There is no greater regional organization than Mineral Area College. It's the Switzerland of the lead belt. Every time we have a meeting at MAC, what we're talking about is to try to help the region as a whole. So I've been on that board now for 7 years, so I've been working on regional things with them all that time, and I will continue to do that. So that's number one. But number two, and I'm willing to work on joint projects such as the industrial park that we're talking about up by MAC. I think that may be a good idea, although we've really got to think about how that money's going to be spent. And it's kind of a long-range solution. But you all need to know, I'm running for the mayor of Farmington. And so I'm not going to spend a great deal of my time working on regional stuff. Just look at the problems we're facing with homelessness and so forth. That's what I'm going to spend my time on, is solving those problems. Okay? Where the regional problems make sense for Farmington, I'll work on those, but other than that, I'm working for you. And so that's my take, I guess, on regional things. Like I said, I'll be the mayor of Farmington, Missouri, and Farmington, Missouri is what I'm going to be working on. And Tandy, that's what I've got on that answer. So, you want me to go right into the next one?
Actually, question number 4 you start with, and these were a combination of questions that we received from the public. Some of these are individual issues, so we combined them into one question, and we will allow 4 minutes for this one because it is a little bit more complex. We had 3 questions submitted by the public regarding restoring recycling services, getting an official pickleball court with lighting, and now you know what's one question. And what the mayor may do to support veterans, especially those contemplating suicide. Do you have any comments to make regarding these issues?
Okay, let's start with recycling. We did recycling. We had kind of an open recycling thing when I was mayor the last time, and it was nothing but trouble. I just have to tell you. We had it, and I don't know how many of you all remember, but you could drive in out there and drop your stuff off, and we had a bunch of dumpsters that you could put stuff in. You know what was winding up in those dumpsters? Deer carcasses. People would throw stuff, their garbage. They would just drive by and throw their garbage in. It ruined the whole recycling thing. And so we kept having to amp up the amount of money we were paying somebody to come and empty out those dumpsters. And I think it finally got north of $50,000 a year, and that's when the city shut it down. Now, somebody came up to me at an event the other day and said, have you looked into the St. Genevieve recycling methodology? And I said, no, but I will. And so we'll look at that. I think recycling is a good idea. We do it at our house. We pay extra so we can recycle because I believe that that's a good thing to do. But to try to implement that with the city has turned out to be more difficult than you would think. And so if St. Genevieve's got some way of doing this that makes sense, I'm all ears. Other than that, you know, if we can't figure it out, we're probably not going to start it up again. It was just a mess the last time. All right, I'm in favor of developing more pickleball courts in town. This fits right into that previous question about public health. If you're out smacking a pickleball around, you're doing something good for yourself. Years ago, one of our kids graduated from med school, and the guy who was the speaker was the chief medical officer of the United States. I think his name was Sacker. And his speech rotated around one thing. If I could just get America moving, he said, I'd cut diabetes by 80%. Afterwards, I grabbed him. And I said, what are you talking about moving? He said, we can just get people to walk. So anything we can do to promote walking, so forth, pickleball courts would be great. I know right now this person was concerned because they were trying to do pickleball courts down in Wilson Rozier. And what they had to do was like take over one of the tennis courts down there. And then they couldn't get the lights on. And so it was just, they had to haul their own pickleball nets and everything in, set it up, then reset the thing back to a tennis court. What she wanted was a more permanent thing. I think we ought to try to find ways to do that. So I'm a yes on the pickleball courts. Okay. Veterans, let's talk about veterans. I believe deeply that veterans are an important group in our town. And when I was mayor the last time, every single time they asked me to speak at an event, I was happy to do it. In fact, I thought it was one of the most important things that I did was to go out and support those guys that some of them had given huge amounts of their life in furtherance of our freedom. And so I was happy to go out and talk to those veterans, and I will be again. If I'm elected, you're going to see me down there with those veterans because I love those guys. So on the veterans, I'm all in. Kenny, those are my 3.
Yes. Or 47 seconds.
What's that?
47 seconds.
47 seconds.
You explain pickleball to us.
Thankfully, it's a pretty simple sport. I can kind of figure it out. I have played pickleball.
Chris, same question to you. We've had 3 questions submitted by the public regarding restoring recycling services, getting an official pickleball court with lighting, and what the mayor may do to support veterans. Do you have any comments to make regarding these issues?
Yeah, we'll start with the veterans. I don't know if this speaks well to my parents, but I grew up like at the AMVETS and the VFW down there. They were very involved. I think I sat on a bar and sang for quarters a lot. Talking about my hobbies. So I've been fortunate that I've been around that my whole life. I remember sitting on a bar stool listening to veterans talk about what they experience, and it was great for a 6, 7, 8-year-old to hear those things. I also know what those organizations do, what the VFW, what the AMVETS, what the Legion, all those awesome support organizations do. I think it goes into how does the city work into that? We have to support, right? And I think we do that. Our city administrator is a veteran. We have many veterans across our workforce. I think it starts with supporting our employees that are veterans as well. And it goes back to, we seem to circle back to mental health a lot. It's making sure that the folks in the community are aware of the services that are out there. I can't speak enough about the experience I had today, visiting with Carrie and Nicole at the Uplift Center, just the resources that I wasn't even aware of that were in our community. We have to get that out for veterans, for everybody. So yeah, of course I would do that. I try to support it now, and I think it makes sense, and I think that's something we all would agree on. Pickleball. I tried it. I lost, but it was fun. No, I think it's a bigger point to that. I think it's, when I visit with Lainey, who's the new director, the Parks and Rec director, it's thinking outside the box on how do we get people in our community, how do we give our community members something to do. I think pickleball it's all the rage, and we need to embrace it while it's here. We talk tourism a lot. I don't think that's a terrible idea to explore investing into that. I know one of the guys who's talking to me about it, they go down to Jackson like 3 days a week to play. It'll bring people in here. I think we need to look at it. I think we need to look at it for all outdoor activities, We have wonderful resources. We have a sports complex. It's great. We have the Civic Center. Why are we not hosting events? We have Engler Park, which is like the crown jewel of the region. We need to be utilizing that space, and I think it's just working with Lainey, working with tourism, working with community groups on how we can utilize those things. our community members aren't driving to St. Louis every weekend, like me and my wife do, for our kids. So, and then the last thing was recycling. So we recycle as well. I think Jack's here. He always forgets to take the recycling out to the road, so I have to do it. But, I think obviously it's important for us to look at. Again, it goes back to, I don't have the answers on what the best recycling option is. I think we need to be open to it. If St. John has a great idea, I got a buddy who works for Republic Services. I've reached out to him like, hey, what are you seeing in other cities? We just have to be open to it. Just because something didn't work 5 years ago doesn't mean it can't work today. Maybe there's been changes, maybe not. I think it's just being open to it. Or recycling. So, I think it's something that, well, like many issues, we just have to be open-minded to it. We have to, consider what's best for our citizens. And I think having an option, it's the same as the yard waste site. There are challenges with that, but it's a great asset to our community. We can go out there on the weekends, keep our yards clean, and then a shout out to the street and crews and everyone else that picked up all those limbs the last few weeks. They've been working hard on it. It gives us a resource for those things, so they're not sitting around in yards, and it's an eyesore. It's what keeps Farmington beautiful. You can have the rest of my time, Mark.
20 seconds. So, in conclusion tonight, you each are allowed to make a closing statement at 10 minutes or less. So, Chris, you would take the next question first, so we'll have you go first and then we'll finish out.
There you go. Okay. Just closing statement? Yeah. Well, first again, thank you for coming out tonight. I'm really humbled to be up here. It's been a great opportunity. Serving on the city council the last 5 years has been so eye-opening. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed just seeking to understand what's going on. It's a quote that I heard when I first got into the workforce. It's a Stephen Covey quote. He says, "Seek to understand before being understood." I try to live my life by it. I think it's really important. I think in all of our roles, whether you're on the chamber board, whether you're on city council, whether you're mayor, you always try to seek the other person's perspective on things and before you share yours. And I think that as mayor, that's what I would do, whether that's with a citizen, whether that's with another department head, whether it's with another town, whoever that's with. So you always hear the quote, you can't pick your family, but you can choose your friends. You can't pick where you're born, but you can pick where you choose to raise your family. So we chose Farmington. We love it. I'm excited. I've enjoyed my last 13 years here. I can't wait for the next. I've tried to serve in every aspect possible. It was very important to me to do that. I'll continue to do it. I think it's a great thing for the city of Farmington that they have people that are willing to step up and try to serve. I believe the future of Farmington, I think the success, it's been successful before me, it'll be successful after. I think the success is going to look different in the future. I do think we'll have to look at it regionally. I think we'll have to work together. And I think that benefits Farmington long term. I don't claim to have all the answers. Jen hates when I say that, but I'm going to say it every time. I don't, but I'm willing to listen. I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room, but if I get the smart people in the room at the table, I think we can get good things accomplished. And I'm definitely not going to take 10 minutes, Candy, but I'm happy to talk to any of you after, and I appreciate the support. Appreciate it.
Okay, time for the closing, right? All right, let's circle back, because when the first question was, what are your 3 top priorities? I only got to 1. So let's talk just for a second about the other 2. The next priority I have is our SORTS facility. Are you all familiar with SORTS? SORTS stands for Sexual Offender Rehabilitation Treatment. Okay? And that facility employs over 900 people. It's one of the biggest employers in the area. Okay? The way SORTS works is, if you have served your time in prison, but you're still deemed to be dangerous to society, they go through a civil commitment process to move you into a mental health facility for intensive treatment under maximum security. Half of the SORTS patients are up in Fulton, Missouri. Half of them are down here in Farmington. In Fulton, Missouri, they built a new facility, but they cannot staff it. And so, even though they built this brand new facility, the staffing is easier down here. So what they're proposing is to move the other half of the SORTS patients down to our facility and make it bigger. And the problem for the city is it's kind of an optics one, outside of the fact that they're going to have another 900 employees from somewhere. But they're going to put a big, the plan is to put a big razor wire fence along Columbia Street on your way into town. Not the kind of look that we would like to have for our town. But when you stop and think about sorts and you talk with these people, and when I was mayor, I negotiated a protocol with them where we met once a quarter. And the idea was to develop a relationship with their leadership, to get a window on the decisions that they were making, and to find out, does this work? Are you actually able to take someone who is a child predator and turn them into a normal citizen? And they think they can do it. That's the interesting thing. Now, it's not going to work in the vast majority of cases, but they do have some success sometimes. It takes a long time, okay? All right. Their problem is not, the problem that we have is them bringing them all into town. The problem they have isn't so much that Farmington is such a greater place than Fulton. It's just they don't have staffing at Fulton. They can't get the thing staffed. And to me, what we need to work on are the actual problems. And so we need to look at the sorts facility just like any other industry. They're a big employer in town. And all of us, as citizens of Missouri and Farmington, we need them to succeed. It would be great if they could actually do what they say they're going to do. Right? So, what we need to do is develop some kind of innovative training and support system so that they can staff the facility up in Fulton. And you say, oh my gosh, it's impossible. I don't think it is. Okay? First of all, the mindset of these people is that they are the tip of the arrow in state-of-the-art psychological treatment. They take pride in that. That's what they think they're doing. And so if we come to them and we say, why don't you outsource this training to us? And who would us be? The college. I'm proposing that the college join together with them. It would be a great opportunity because not only is Swords having trouble staffing, so are our 3 prisons. We have 3 prisons in this area, and they're having the same kind of difficulties. And so that's a solution that I would be working on for Swords. The third one is something, if you look at my information that I have out there on Landon for Mayor on Facebook, I have a lot more information on all of these things. But if you look, there's a thing that we have called LNT, Linear No Threshold, and that is a methodology for determining how much radiation is safe. We get our water out of deep wells, and we're sitting right over an ancient caldera, a volcano. Farmington was built over this thing. You can't see it anymore, it's eroded, but that's where we're drilling into. And when we bring that water out, it has a tiny amount of radiation in it. And the EPA says we have to get rid of that radiation. It's costing us $600,000 a year to get rid of that radiation. And we do that every single year. And everybody, if you all live in Farmington, you're all paying this through your water bill. Okay? Where have you heard this $600,000 number before? It's the retirement bump that we're looking for, right? If we could stop that method, if we could stop paying for the radiation removal, we could do the retirement for our hardworking employees. Okay? Now, here's the thing. The amount of radiation we have, they have very little data on whether it's even harmful. In fact, some studies show it's beneficial, that it actually triggers a healing response in the human body. And the reason is because animals, all of the creatures of the earth, have lived here, have evolved here, surrounded by a trace amount of radiation. It's been here forever. It's from the sun, it's from cosmic rays, it's from natural radiation from the center of the earth. And so our bodies have evolved in this tiny radiation environment, and they can deal with it. And so there's evidence that we're spending all this money for absolutely nothing. And my proposal is that the Supreme Court, about a year ago, got rid of the Chevron doctrine, which was what EPA used to strong-arm us into paying this money. Well, that's gone. So here's our opportunity. And look what's happening in Washington right now with Trump. He's trying to get rid of every regulation he can lay his hands on. My proposal is we find some other entities, and there are many of them out there that are paying the kind of money that we're paying. We join together and we beat LNT down. I want us to have the ability to put it to the voters. Do you want to continue to pay for this? Or maybe we should repurpose that $600,000. That's the question. And if I'm mayor, that's one of the topics that I'm going to be working on. Okay, and then finally, I'll get to my final, how much time have I got left? 3 minutes? Okay, I probably have.
Still have that 14 seconds.
Yeah, I got 14 seconds as a holdover. All right, I want to talk a little bit more about economic development. Farmington, some of you have heard me say this before, Farmington is a collection of components. We have streets, we have City Hall, we have the airport, our transportation system, we have housing, we have our schools, medical facilities, and so on. Every one of those components is dependent on the others. If one of them is diminished, it hurts all the others. If our downtown component were to suddenly be bad, and Chris was talking about how great it is, he's exactly right. If people drove through our downtown and there were dark plate glass windows and grass growing up through cracks in the sidewalks, and those people driving through town were some doctors that we were trying to recruit, you know what would happen? They'd say, we're not moving here. Our downtown would affect our hospital. Okay? One other thing that affected one of those components is our school system. I am in favor of our school system because of this. When you diminish our school system, you are hurting every other part of town. You are making it more difficult to recruit doctors and other key people. You're making it hard for us to compete for industry. All that industry out in the industrial park, the big ones, all wanted to have a tour of the school because they had to move their key people here. There wasn't anybody in Farmington that knew how to make bicycles, and so Huffy said, you have to help us get our plant manager here. So where does he live? Denver. We had to compete with Denver, Colorado to get that plant manager to move into town. And you know what? The school opened up on the weekends. They took that family through, and when they came out, we determined it was an upgrade for them. Denver had gang activity in their school, and guess what? We didn't have any here. All of a sudden, we were able to get these key people to move in, and the school is a key component of that. It is so important that we support this bond issue because we cannot let our schools decline into a sort of second-grade status and expect the rest of the town to prosper. It's just not going to happen. And so I'm in favor of that. And then finally, I have one little story to tell you. Farmington was founded by a woman, as you all know, Sarah Barton Murphy. Did you know that she was a Baptist missionary? She was. Now, I've been a Baptist member of the Baptist Church, Southern Baptist, for 40 years, and I've met many missionaries. And she started the first Sunday school west of the Mississippi River here in 1805. Started that first Sunday school. Now, it is inconceivable to me that Sarah Barton Murphy would be in this town for the rest of her life, start a Sunday school, and get a church in here, and never pray over this town. I think she prayed over it, and I think she prayed that this town would be a great place to raise families and children. I think that's exactly what she prayed. I bet she prayed it every single day of her life. And when you look at what's happened in Farmington, we had the first orphanage here just after World War I to take care of kids, orphans through mining accidents. We had the largest manufacturer of infant shoes here with Trimfoot. We made bicycles here. We made playground equipment out at Iron Mountain Forge. We made daycare equipment at Benny's Toys. We made the boats for Pirates of the Caribbean and for It's a Small, Small World out in our foundry in Farmington. Do you know the Disney Imagineers have been in our town many times to work with these people? Okay, you're going to have to hold here. I got to have 47 more seconds. Okay? And we've had, the other thing we've had are award-winning schools. All of these things around children. We've been so successful, I don't think it's a coincidence. You know, I think that God has been answering Sarah's prayer for the past 225 years, and if you have volunteered for some nonprofit, or you have helped feed somebody through Help the Hungry, or whatever, you have been part of the answer to that prayer. And now we have this bond issue. And we need to support this because it will help every other part of town. And when you support this, thanks to Sarah Barton Murphy, we are standing on the side of the angels. We need to do this. And so that's how I'm going to wind it up. I'm going to support that. But at the same time, when you support the school, you are supporting economic development and everything else we love about this town. Farmington has complex problems. When I worked at Marshall Space Flight Center, we had a saying, you can't solve complex problems with simple-minded thinking, but you can solve them. Okay? These problems are complex, and it's not going to yield to simple-minded thinking, but it doesn't mean we can't solve them. I will work on them as your mayor. Landon for Mayor on Facebook. Thank you so much.
There's also Morrison for mayor on Facebook.
Well, I wanted to say a few last words, if that's all right. He's got the timer going. I do want to thank the city of Farmington for allowing us to use a long haul tonight, setting all of that up. And let's give a real big thank you to our candidates and our speakers tonight. This is not an easy thing to do, right? Can you give them a big hand? All of them. And thank you, Mark, for being the trusty timer over there as well. I want you to remember, Black Knight TV is here recording, so if you would like to view this or know anyone else who would, you can check that out on their YouTube channel. And lastly, as you're leaving tonight, if you have lingering questions or there's something that was said, please feel free to talk with any of our speakers tonight. I know they'll be happy to talk with you. We're fortunate to have so many wonderful leaders in this community, and I think we can all agree the future of Farmington is bright. So with that, thank you for coming.